Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're tackling an open tag from my good friend Dave, aka Singing Toad. I will tag his channel in the title of this video. Definitely go show him some love. Also check out his original open tag video to see what it's all about. I'll link to that in the description of this one. Now, today's open tag is top 5 knives. The name itself is a bit of a misnomer because what he actually wanted to see was our top 1 knife from 5 different categories that he defined in that original video. And so when I first heard that, I considered not participating at all because I knew it would be next to impossible for me to narrow it down to 1 knife per category. I think I'd have a pretty hard time if it were 5 knives per category. And so I tweaked the parameters a little bit because I wanted to participate in the open tag. I enjoy participating in these. And so what I did was I changed it to, if I were to choose 1 knife from each category to carry today, what would that be? And so that introduces a ton of recency bias. So you're gonna see a lot of newer knives. And of course that means that if I remade this video in a month, it would be probably a completely different list of knives. Although there is one that doesn't really change. I think if I made the video in a year, it's gonna be the same, and I'll point that out when we get to it. But for the most part, ever evolving and really going to depend on my mood that day, what I'm doing, what I think I might need to carry, and again, what's new and exciting. And so definitely take that for what it's worth. Now our 5 categories are going to be multi-tool, Swiss Army knife, and it doesn't have to be a Swiss made knife or Victorinox or anything like that, just Swiss Army style of knife, locking knife, slip joint, and fixed blade. And we do have room for 1 honorable mention, and so I'll definitely take advantage of that as well. But the first 2 categories, and we'll go in that order that I just mentioned, first 2 categories, pretty easy honestly. So I only really considered 2 multi-tools. The one I didn't go with was the SOG Power Pint, but ask me again on a different day and I may have chosen that one. What I like about that one is the integrated bit driver, the compact nature. It fits in your fifth pocket, it fits in almost any pouch, and it just has a really nice tool set for its size. And the one I went with was pretty similar actually. I went with the Leatherman Skeletal for a lot of the same reasons. Now this one probably has a worse tool set than the Power Pint, but like the carryability of this one quite a bit. It's a little bit more robust, and I definitely prioritize carryability across my entire list. So for this one, even though it's bigger, it has this integrated carabiner which allows me to clip it to a belt loop, and so doesn't take up any pocket space, don't need a pouch or anything like that. As far as tool sets, there's tons of other multi-tools I prefer, but as far as carryability goes on person, this is one of my favorites. So I might have went with the Charge if we're talking tool set and I can carry it in a backpack or a sling or something like that. But on my person, this is definitely, this and the Power Pint are my go-to. And so that integrated carabiner also doubles as a bottle opener. We do have a blade that locks on here, and this gets almost no use because it's usually a backup to a backup to a backup, but it's locking, and I went with the serrated version because almost no knives in my collection have serrations, and so kind of makes sense for a backup knife to do something a little bit different than what your primary carry is going to be. Now internally, very minimal tool set, less so than that Power Pint and pretty much every other Leatherman in my collection, but the tools that it has are ones that I really like. So the bit driver is probably the most important. It uses proprietary bits from Leatherman, which are nice and flat, but it does mean you have to use their proprietary bits. But it stores 1 in the driver itself, and they're double-sided, and 1 in the handle, so that means that you can carry 4 bits on you without figuring out another solution for carrying bits, which you would need to do on the Power Pint. And so really like that about it. You do have pliers that the handles are more robust in the Power Pint. They're actually pretty similar in size overall to the Power Pint, but overall I think this is a full-size tool, which is something I like about it, but still very carryable. And so that's the one I went with for today. Like I said, if I made it tomorrow, maybe the Power Pint. Now, the next one was the easiest choice by far. I didn't consider any other tools. There was only one I was considering, and this is the one where I said if I made it in a year, would be the same one. I can't imagine anything dethroning this as my favorite Swiss Army knife, and that is the Victorinox Cadet. I have 6 of these, 4 A-locks and 2 G10, and absolutely love them. I do prefer the A-locks version, although the G10 look incredible just because of how slim they are. And again, that's my favorite thing about this tool is how compact it is. It has a very nice tool set for its size, not a lot of waste. I would love to get some scissors on here, but I wouldn't trade scissors for a third layer. You can see this is 2 layers, and then those A-lock scales take up almost no space. And so I wouldn't want it to be any thicker, so even though it doesn't have scissors, I think almost a perfect tool. Love that it has the key ring as well. Almost always have a cadet of some sort on my keychain, and so they'd count that as a tool. I don't, but very happy that it's there. Now I'll clip this to a carabiner so I don't have to deal with, you know, turning this off the keychain if I want to remove it. Really easy to get on and off of my keychain, so I can lend this one out. Non-intimidating knife, and just an excellent tool set, like I said. So first tool, probably the one that gets the least use, we have our can opener. I don't think I've ever opened a can with this particular can opener, or really any of the can openers on my cadet. It's just not something I'm normally doing with my Swiss Army knives, but it does have that small screwdriver on the tip. And so this one gets less use than the larger screwdriver, but it does fit into some smaller screws that the larger one won't. And so not completely unused, really happy that that's included. Now, next up we have the bottle opener and the larger flathead screwdriver. We also have a wire stripper. I don't use the wire stripper, but both the bottle opener and that larger flathead do get a decent bit of use. On the back we have our file, which I'm really happy that that's included because I tend to keep my nails pretty short, and that means I'm clipping them quite often, get some sharper edges. Nice to be able to have a file on you to knock those back when you need it. Now this is usually my tertiary blade, but it does have a fairly generous blade on here, nice little pen blade, and I'm able to get all 5 fingers on here, so it feels pretty robust. And like I said, a non-intimidating blade. This is the one that if I'm going to hand out a knife, this is the most likely one that gets handed out. Also happens to live on the same keychain as my mailbox key, and so opens a ton of packages. And if you ever forget your knife, you always have one on your key ring. That's pretty rare, but on the occasions it does happen, you feel pretty naked without any knife at all, so it's nice to have that backup one there to answer the call if you ever need it. Now, next category was the most difficult by far, and this is really the reason I ended up creating that parameter of just what would I carry today, because for the locking knife category, I had so many that I was considering and I just couldn't get down to one. And so I went with one that I've just been infatuated with the last couple of weeks since I got it at CCKS. Beautiful knife, ergos are incredible, and just incredibly fidgety, hydraulic action. And I'm talking about the Koenig Mini Arius. And so got that non-flipper version, absolutely incredible knife, and one that I just haven't been able to stop fidgeting with. The action on it's incredible, just drop shut, hydraulic action, and a fun one that I haven't been able to get out of my hands. I'm constantly flipping this one at my desk, in traffic, in general. I have this one on me quite a bit since I've gotten it, so I'm sure that infatuation will wear off at some point, but for now, this is the one that really haven't been able to keep it out of my hand. So loving that so far. Now, this next one was pretty hard, the slip joint category, and that's because recently there's a knife that has knocked the other two off the list, but for the last couple months, there were really 2 knives that were dominating my 5th pocket carry, which is where I usually have my slip joint. And that was the Great Eastern Cutlery Dogleg. I have that avocado jig bone that I absolutely love, and the Boker club knife. Now I have 2 versions of that, but one of the 2 is often in my pocket. And recently they got knocked off by the Jack Wolf Knives Little Bro Jack. And so that's what I went with, because again, I'm going with more recent ones, but I'm sure those other 2 will find themselves back in the rotation very, very soon. But I have 2 of this knife. I liked it so much I bought a second, got that Crystal Lake Curanite, which is absolutely stunning, and absolutely loving this. Up until this point, I was having a really hard time choosing what my favorite Jack Wolf knife was, and then I got this one and it immediately took that spot. It's just the perfect size. As you can see, have all 5 fingers on it, but still a very compact knife, and so as small as you can really get while still being a fully functional knife. And you can use this as your primary blade. Love that clip point, and just really everything about this knife. And so this has been the one that's been in my pocket quite a bit lately. I've been kind of going back and forth between this and the Flow Party, but have really been into this Curanite lately, and so that's the one that ended up on the list. Now, for the fixed blade category, this was another one that was extremely hard. There was probably 5 or 6 that I was choosing from, and so I chose my honorary mention for fixed blades as well because I had such a hard time narrowing it down. But the one I ultimately landed on was the Cerberus Knives Riot and the drop point version. So I showed a Tanto version and my CCKS version. I've never showed this one on the channel, it's pretty new. But this is the drop point. It has these Kydex sheath, which is really, really nice. Usually I wouldn't have thought that this is a type of sheath that I would like. Typically I would go with something more like this one with the ulti clip or a pocket clip. And that's because in California, you're not allowed to carry a fixed blade concealed, and so you can't just drop it in your pocket. The handle needs to be exposed, and so those type of sheaths allow me to put it in my pocket and then just tuck my shirt behind it and still carry them. And so these ones don't allow for that, but the entire knife disappears in your pocket. It's not like I'm getting stopped and searched ever, and so not such a big deal. I've just been dropping this directly in my pocket, sheath and all, and so absolutely loving it. This one is a very new one with the Ultim Handles drop point blade. You can see pretty dirty. I lent this one out to my sister the other day. She was doing some prop lifting. If you don't know what that is, really hilarious concept. Definitely look it up. Pretty funny, but has a lot of plant guts all over it. But absolutely in love with this knife lately. And so I did mention I got a different one at CCKS, that Tanto style blade. And so same kind of deal, different sheath, but same kind of deal overall. Really wicked Tanto tip on that. I think that looks so, so cool. But did mention already, my honorary mention was going to be another fixed blade. And so prior to really diving into the world of small fixed blades lately, there were two that I've really been into: the Backpacker from White River Knives and then the OEG Marion. And so that was my other option. I already showed that ulti clip, and you can see two-tone Kydex slip to match that Cerakoted blade. And at first I was a little bit scared to use this knife because the Cerakoting I thought would just kind of get damaged pretty quick, and that really hasn't been the case at all. I've been using this one and really no permanent damage. I think I have one small scratch, but everything else you're seeing will just wipe right off of there. And just such a cool looking knife. The size is right. Now, unfortunately, I broke this one the other day. Dropped it on cement. No fault of the knife. There's not many knives that will win a battle against cement, but it did happen to land on the weakest part of the knife, which is the eye from the one-eyed ghost. And so didn't reach out to Eddie at all. Excuse me. Eddie at all. I'm sure he would try and help me out if I did. He's a great guy, but this was entirely my fault. Like I said, there's not many knives that are going to win a battle with cement, and I dropped it, so no, don't really plan on reaching out to him either, but still love this knife. It's not really affecting anything, just kind of the visual of it, so no big deal there. So as far as honorable mention, love this one. He has a pike as well that I probably plan on picking up the next time he does a drop of them. I haven't seen one in a while. I should have grabbed one at Blade Show. But those are my 5 knives plus my honorable mention. Let me know what you think of my choices down in the comments below. And if you'd like to participate, definitely tag Singing Toad in your video, or feel free to just comment which knives you would have went with in the comment section of this video. But thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and hitting that notification button. And as always, hope you have a great one. Take care.